Hello, everybody. Lisa Bowles, the Soul Mapper here. It is 1 o'clock Eastern Time on Thursday, July the 31st, 2025. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Erica, I'm going to leave you to press the admit button for everyone else who joins us from here on out. I got to keep my eye on my notes so I don't miss anything. Welcome, welcome, welcome. August is in a league of its own for all kinds of reasons. And during the month, there's a call to fierceness. And we're going to talk about that very closely. But I want to jump in right from the beginning and remind us of one thing, because I've talked about it at least once before. Erica thinks twice. I don't remember. And then also to say a bit of an oops, I oopsed apology. First, you may have noticed that the amount of content in the slides that we review throughout live has changed, that they're abbreviated. I explained why, but I got the impression from a couple of people, their feedback, that they arrived at live after I shared that information and either didn't hear it, or because I only said it once, it might have just slipped. So here's the reason why. We are living, and this will sound like, tell me something I don't know, but we are living in extraordinarily complex times. And the astrology of our time has gotten, over the last, I'm going to say, year and a half, increasingly complex. So the amount of material that could be put on the slides just kept getting more. And the amount of time it was taking for me to sort out and synthesize and simplify without squeezing out the juice. I'm not sharing video. Oh, sorry about that. Thank you very much, Erica. Can you see me now? The amount of work that was going into that was getting increasingly big every month. And by that, I mean preparation for live, which used to take a couple of solid hours, was taking 6 and 8 hours. And that just wasn't going to work. So what we did was skinny down the content on the slides themselves, relying on two things. One, the audio will always be here to review. And second, we created a meatier guide. Instead of just simple notes, we're actually producing a guide that is meatier. We're using a couple of tools to do that, but that's something you can walk away with and work with. That we're hearing from folks that the new guide with suggested action steps is really, really appealing and working for people. So that's why the abbreviated content on the slides. It just means that we can still provide you with great value month after month after month without me investing more than a whole day, and the time that I work with Erica to prepare the slides and review the slides and edit the slides, without that kind of time involved. Okay. Oops. The oops is when we reviewed what time or what day live for August was going to be on the slides in July, we said last Thursday. That's on me. I goofed. It was meant to be this Thursday. It's always the last Thursday of every month. So if we're going to keep our eye on that, so we are less likely to make that oops again. I don't remember the last time we did that. But if you happen to see that it's not on the final Thursday of a month, and there's no holiday, stat holiday, that lands on that date, requiring that we consider moving it, then I've made an oops. We've made an oops. Okay. So keep that in mind. It will always be the last Thursday of every month, unless there's a big statutory holiday and we have to move it because folks just aren't going to be able to make it. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much, my friends. So let's dive in. Live for August. Let's go to the first slide, my friend. So all the big backbeats are here, but you're going to notice there's a couple of additions. Here we have RX at the end of 3 of them. Okay, our transformer Pluto working through Aquarius, our Dreamkeeper Neptune, okay, working in Aries right now, but going back into Pisces, retrograde, and our inner guru Saturn, also retrograde right now in Aries, and it will be going back into Pisces. This is creating some really interesting review, reconsider, etc., 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 that is very, very active right now in all kinds of ways. And I wanted to make sure you knew about that because it's worth keeping your eye on. Very, very, very much worth keeping your eye on. All right. Next slide, please. Now, normally you see images of the slides that reviewed each of these shorter term influences that are still in play right now. We see those slide images tiled across the screen. There were too many. So we've created a list. What that means is if, and I encourage you all to do this as often as you feel called to. And if there's something in particular I think is worth going, hey, wait, this is, go look at the notes or the guide and take a quick look at the information specific to the short-term influence that is calling your name or that I bring some specific attention to, okay? That might mean a little extra work, but if you're feeling particularly called, that will serve you, all righty? It's wild, all righty? Okay. Now, I want to remind you that our fortune finder, Jupiter, shifted into Cancer on the 9th of June. So been there throughout June, all right? And is still very much at work. So that's one of the themes that we're going to be talking about throughout the month of August. So keep your eye on that. I also want to remind you that our benevolent rebel Uranus shifted into Gemini on July the 7th and will remain there for its preview, okay, until the 7th of November, because that is having some big sway here too, okay? Okay, next slide, please. Here we go. August, yes, yes, August. Next slide, please. Now I'm going to go to my notes because I've got more information to share with you. Always do. Please know that if I'm not making direct eye contact, it's not because I don't love you, it's because I don't want to miss anything on you. So August 6th till September the 22nd, our action instinct Mars will be working through Libra. And that's a really big deal, in part because historically our action instinct is not comfortable there. The energies of Libra and the energies of our action instinct are Mars, when here, tends to attempt to wrestle for control relative to, let's just move it forward, action, okay? That's the first point. Action impulse, highly accelerated because it's adding more oomph to things, but it's adding it in particular places, in relationship, in partnership, and in collaborative connection, okay? Those of us who have been deeply conditioned to let others lead the charge rather than match their energies collaboratively might find this hard, okay? And a little bit of, because we're attempting to work out some of the early layers of conditioning that kind of work against us when it comes to sovereignty and shared sovereignty. Okay, so just be aware that that will be present and that there could be some and the thing you want to maybe kind of hold okay, is that those historically who have been taught or had it reinforced that taking the lead's not their natural place, passive aggression will show up. So part of the yum, yum, yum in this is, let me show you where your leadership, your sovereignty, your self-possession has been tied up and kind of gone subterranean into passive assertiveness, passive aggression, so that you can see, if you've been kind of pointing fingers and laying blame, you can reclaim chunks of yourself and your own power. Okay? Emotional equilibrium practice, big, big, big. All right? Now, point 2, really worth paying attention to, amber light, because there could be an over romanticization of partnership, of what it takes actually to be sharing sovereignty, sharing power together. Okay? One of the things that's important also to pay attention to is this is going to be as active in personal relationships and partnerships as it is in business. Okay? And I underscore that because it's going to show up in business, no two ways about it. If we really think about any business, particularly service-oriented businesses, are in partnership with the community they serve. They're in partnership with the people they serve. They're in all kinds of partnership. And there's going to be some really interesting inside that for us from August 6th to September 22nd. One of the phrases I'm going to be working with to help me is go, hang on. If I'm feeling impatient, what's the rush? What's the rush? Hello. What do I need to bring my attention to here? How can I partner better? Working with the impulse to action without attempting to wrestle control, whether I'm obvious about it and have a set of beliefs about how that works, or it's internal and you know what I'm talking about. Yes? Okay. It's a big one. And it's coming pretty quick. It's not that far away. We may feel the rumbles of this, especially if you're amongst many here who are sensitives. And I don't mean, oh, you're so sensitive. I mean, we just pick things up sooner, earlier, maybe without, cognitive recognition. We could be feeling this as a kind of grouchy restlessness. Alrighty? Okay. The 9th of August, full moon in Aquarius. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Now, there's a couple of things to keep very much in mind. And this is just, let's see, 3 days after our action instinct goes into Libra. This full moon is a kind of a powerful moon for a lot of people because Pluto's working there now, our transformer. Now, he happens to be retrograde at the moment. So that kind of energy is here. Keep that in mind. And yeah, but this favors and I think makes even more opportune, provided you're working with the retrograde energy. This favors and optimizes collaborative, forward-thinking community and a call to humanitarian activism. Okay, to work for the common good in some way, shape, or form, a cause. Yeah, it will call us to dive in and make a difference and put our energy either behind a cause you're passionate about, or raise your voice against injustice, or look for ways to kind of blend this into the work you do or the business you've been building or plan to build. Okay? If you find yourself struggling, reach out to community, particularly community that focuses on collaborativeness, forward-thinking orientation, and pitching their energy behind a cause. Okay? There could be significant support for moving your work ahead over the course of the next 6 months, because the ripples of this will last for 6 months, provided you actually let yourself reach out to community if you've been struggling. Alrighty? It doesn't mean that forward momentum won't happen for you if you haven't been struggling, but for those who have been, okay? The last thing is, if you feel particularly blessed, okay? If your work in the world has done amazing things, or you've been supported by amazing people, or any combination, this will kind of nudge you to share your good fortune with people who could use a leg up. Okay? Genuine leg up, not the kind of, oh, look at me, how good I am helping other people. No. Genuinely offer a leg up so that the blessing extends. It's a pay it forward kind of a thing. Okay? All right. Next slide, please. Okay, August the 11th, communication savant, otherwise known as Mercury, the retrograde ends. We're in the middle of retrograde night now. Some people have been having a wicked time, and others not so much. Yeah, if you're among those who've been having a wicked time, bless you. And you might want to, if you've forgotten to do the usual Mercury things like back up your data on all your devices, check your backup, have, redundancies for things, so that if something goes a little wonky, then you've got a backup plan or backup support or extra time, et cetera, et cetera. Consider attempting to do those things now. I know we've only got about 11 and a half days of this left, but because of the other things that we've already talked about, it's going to add to the complexity of this, and you just might want to take care of yourself and your business, okay? The thing that we talked about with this particular Mercury retrograde, because it's working through Leo, ordinarily, Leo season, when the sun is in Leo, when Mercury's working through Leo, is like, go bold, and because Mercury retrograde's here, it was offering us opportunities to be more internal about this, review what our notions of bold and courageous and being visible are. For those of us who have some, about being bold, being visible, I've heard from a few people that some stuff's come that's kind of, and it's uncomfortable. And this is opportunity to look at where that discomfort comes from. Okay? This wants to loosen the tongue that has been, once retrograde ends, loosen the tongue that has been internal, feeling inclined to be a little less, center stage. If some of what has, thank you to the retrograde, kind of had us revisit our fears around being visible, being public, being bold, being et cetera, this actually is going to give our hearts a boost and encourage us to be courageous. Okay? It doesn't mean the absence of what scares you, but the willingness to test the bounds of self-imposed limitation because we're afraid. Okay? One of the other really interesting things about this is release, if you're looking for that, is to practice laughter as a form of liberation. Now, there's a few people in this community, that's the core of their work. They use comedy, laughter to help people break free, and perhaps to have conversations externally and internally that they might otherwise not have, because the tension is just, it feels too sharp to approach unless we find a way to laugh about it. Okay? So I want to encourage you that once, because I've already scheduled some comedy hours, put it in your calendar. The moment this retrograde ends, start practicing. I kid you not, liberation laughter, to give yourself opportunity, particularly if the topic is a bit touchy for you, around speaking up, around being seen, around being bold. Your kind of bold, not somebody else's kind of bold, so that the tension that's been stored here gets broken up a bit. Okay? All right. There is a very big leadership call, because inside the last couple of weeks and the continuing almost 2 weeks, there's been a bit of a leadership gap in some places. And that leadership gap is going to be calling for some people when this retrograde ends. Say, okay, now it's your turn. Come on out front, and lead us. And it doesn't necessarily mean you're doing it by yourself, but remember all the collaboration energy we just been talking about? Right on the nose, baby. Okay? Don't ignore the call. If you're supposed to join others in particular around leading the charge. Okay? Okay. Next slide, please. August 22nd till September 22nd, our force of nature, the sun, shifts into Virgo. This is another big one. The themes of Virgo are present and significant, and they kind of dovetail. Remember I said there's a couple of themes to pay attention to? This is part of that. So there's a call in this to clean living. But what do I mean by clean? Really healthy food, clean water, clean spaces, and clean living. Conscious consumerism, aware when you're participating in consumerism, and when consumerism is more consuming you than conscious. And have that be a little eye-openingly jolty in our work, in our business too. Okay? Fair labor practices, big fat green light. Oh my goodness. Now, I know that in many places in the world these days that fair labor practices are getting a whole lot of whacking around. This is going to be tempting to reach those ready to continue to take a stand or take a stand. And that's worth knowing about, particularly given the call to collaboration we've been talking about. All right. This wants us to focus on true sustenance, clean sustenance. And I don't just mean food. I mean the company you keep, the conversations you're part of. And that's not to say that you don't, or I don't, listen for conversations that are not life-sustaining, but that we let them give rise to, so how do I respond to that? How do I put sustenance in the space where none exists, or where what exists is not good? Okay, it's a call to order. So ordering our spaces, ordering our lives. And the thing about this that's also really interesting, especially for the energy sensitive, is feeling out an order and bringing it into realization. It isn't necessarily about imposing order, but of finding it. And when we stop to think that each person needs a particular kind of order to be sustaining for them, then this becomes an exercise in liberation, which is very Virgoan, because this is about self-possession and sovereignty. Same with organization, same with efficiency. Those drives are going to be amplified, provided we hold on to, yes, but how do I create order? What kind do I need? How do I create organization? What kind do I need? How do I be efficient? What kind of efficiency is needed here? Okay. There's also a big fat call to be outdoors, to participate in, if you're in Northern Hemisphere particularly, late summer activity, light, air, movement, yamana kind of outdoor sustenance, in anticipation that in the coming months, we'll be moving back indoors. And to pay attention to local harvests, especially very local. If it's in your backyard, awesome. But to pay close attention to those who are providing your food locally, to support them and to support yourself. And then always, 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 the background of this will always be self-possession, particularly, not exclusively, but particularly for the women folk. Okay? Look for what boosts your vitality and lends support to your practice of self-possession and sovereignty. Okay? This becomes particularly important because, next slide, please. August 23rd, new moon in Virgo, again, Virgo energy. And this is the first of two rare, because it only happens every 19 years, 2 consecutive new moons in the same sign. You think the whole theme of, working overtime. Okay, so Virgo amplified, 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 and that began the day before when we had our force of nature shift there. Okay, so it wants to clear the way and sanctify for sustenance, for order, for organization, for efficiency, our way. It doesn't mean you don't rely on or tap out for some help, especially if you're someone for whom that's your life's work, that's your wheelhouse. Oh my goodness. But the notion of sanctifying it, making it sacred, imbuing it with sacred intention, imbuing it with your intention for there to be devotional energy to it, big deal. Big, big deal. In part because, again, we're wanting to help lift ourselves into self-possession and sovereignty. Okay? This also means, because we talked earlier about order, organization, efficiency, I'm going to use another word here, which is clutter, clearing out clutter. But in this particular case, it wants us to pay particular attention to distraction clutter. What distracts you? What tears your focus away from what? Because that's, particularly because of this, we're getting 2 of them, and because the sun is working here too, it wants us to give our attention to what pulls us away from what we want, what we intend, what we feel compelled or called to remain focused on. Okay? Sovereignty practice. Wellness, big, big, big deal here. Self-care, big deal. Rest and regulation, also big deals. Okay? And that's why the distraction clutter we want to pay attention to, because they often interfere with these things. I didn't put this in the content, but I'm just going to say this. Virgo and Virgoan energy also brings about a kind of access to discipline. And a lot of us have some really negative experiences around the word and what it means and what it requires. What I'm talking about, and I'll just say this, I'm one of them. This is about bringing into our life, our regular, everyday, ordinary life, practices that help us increase our wellness, increase the degree of self-care. And I'm not talking about massages or spas. Not that those things don't have a place in self-care, but what I'm talking about is things like healthy boundaries and drinking enough water and eating the best food we can afford and getting enough of real rest. And I don't just mean sleep, and practices that help us regulate. that help us take care of our nervous system and reset. Okay? All right. It is a stellar time to schedule time for you for these things. Scheduling practices. It will be easier because of the support we're getting, both from this first of 2 new moons in Virgo, and because the sun, our force of nature, is here. It means that it will be easier to create a schedule and stay with it. But here's the thing I want to say. You're wanting to find the order of scheduling that works for you. Not so you can do shit you hate, because I'm sorry, that's not what discipline practice is about. It's about finding ways to do the things you intend to do to take care of yourself in a kind of repetitive manner that is increasingly delicious to you, life-sustaining to you. Remember we talked about laughter already? Now, here's another thing that I really want to encourage us all to do. I've already started mapping this for myself. What do you need to keep near you in your life to keep your wellness aims working well? Foods, snacks, water, nighttime routine, and maybe to even ask these things of your spiritual practice too, the ones that help you come back into regulation with yourself, come back into rest with yourself. Sometimes we need to unplug and just turn off our brains. Meditation isn't just about spiritual practice. It's about our minds getting some downtime. And that's all in here too. Okay? Virgo and Pisceans. Virgoans and Pisceans. You'd expect this of the Virgoans, but the Pisceans, because it's on that axis, remember we talked about axis a lot when we do the nodal wa. Well, it's here again. Alrighty? The Virgoans and Piscean suns or moons, okay, just to be clear, and maybe even those with an ascendant or rising sign in these 2 signs, the call to rest, oh my God, just off the charts big for you, and will be for 2 months, because there's this moon and then there's next month's moon in same place. So when I say you need to take extra care, I'm really not kidding. If you have clients who are a Virgo sun, Virgo moon, Virgo ascendant, rising sign, or what I call first responder, or Pisces, sun, moon, or first responder, you may need to be of additional support to them, or ask them what kind of additional support they're going to need. Here's why I'm making an extra big point of this. If you have those anchors in your map, Virgo or Pisces, and you keep pushing while this energy is alive, you could find yourself on the edge of burnout real fast. And you don't want to. If you have clients, and for the record, what might be keeping them from a more restful, well way of life could be painful, could be connected to trauma, could be kind of in the synapses of dysregulation. It might be very difficult for them, but this wants to kind of bring that to a head so they have reason to slow down, even though it might be trying to do so. Okay? If you're a practitioner, a facilitator, therapist, healer, these couple of months are going to be big deals for you to be of service to people, especially these days. Okay? Okay. Next slide, please. August 25th till September the 19th. Our charisma of cause, otherwise known as Venus, will be working in Leo. This is where fierceness shows up. Alrighty? So the word to put in front of fierceness is the word necessary. And for many of us, that word will be pivotal. Because a lot of us being fierce, especially if you are someone who has been and continues to be othered, female, person of color, member of the LGBTQ community, immigrant, okay, just othered. Being necessarily fierce can have had some difficult experiences in your past or even present. Doesn't make it less necessary. And this Venus says, in order to love yourself and to ensure that you are represented well to whatever degree is possible, means that you need to allow necessary fierceness at times. Okay? Even if the only person that knows how fierce you feel is you. Because often what we do is squish that sucker down. And this is going to come along and go, no, no, no. No squishing that sucker, no. Okay? Especially if you've had trouble tapping into your fierceness while Mercury has been and will for another week and a bit continue to be working through Leo, because we were being a little more internal about it. This wants to help us to tap into that internal bowl and let it continue to rise into the necessary fierceness we may need to be feeling and clearer about, so that we walk in love for ourselves, make sense, and for each other. All right. It is a prime time to start creative projects, okay? Particularly when working on your personal branding, to make sure your front-facing presentation of your work is a proper reflection of the genius in it and that which you carry. It's less about me, I'm a genius, and more about the genius of your work. All right? So some of this fierceness is about, damn it, I'm going to speak this. I'm going to find a way to articulate this. I'm going to front face and present this in ways that make an impression upon those it's meant to make an impression. Alrighty? So that's a big damn deal. If your work in the world is helping those kinds of creative projects, big deal. I would put this in my calendar and start preparing for when this period and about a month or so after, just saying, this becomes particularly activated, so that you're there and you're ready to go, hello, I'm over here. Because it might take folks a little bit of time to get a little more comfortable with their own grr and admit that they need the support of those who are genius in their way. Okay. This also means it's a stellar window to hire stylists. Okay. Whether that's for your house or your person, your hair, your clothes, your make, whatever. Photographers, remember front facing, personal or professional designers, people that will help with, okay, and wordsmiths, not so that they can tell you what words to use, but so they can help you excavate or find words or new word combinations to express the genius in your work to whatever degree is possible now. Okay? This particular Venus cycle does not want to hold a damn thing back. It really doesn't. It wants you to swipe right on you. It wants you to swipe right on your work. If you think about it this way, It's about letting yourself love yourself enough that you become fierce. Start the creative project or continue a creative project that's been, and front face in ways that make the right kind of impression, the authentic impression, the live impression, with that kernel of love inside it. So the other folks, but that means that loving yourself and loving your work is where that kernel comes from, first and foremost. Okay? All right. Let's go to the next slide, please. Isn't that gorgeous? I love that slide. So those are the numbers, the number of opportune days. The asterisk beside the 8 means that there's 2 that takes place on that date, but they're not both opportune. Okay. And note also there's a big theme to watch for. So we've touched in on a interwoven theme, but it shows up even more here. So let's take a look at this. Next slide, please. Okay, August the 8th. Networking, super, super supported and boosted today. Now, here's what I want you to understand. When I say networking, I don't mean, going to a room full of strangers and agreeing to give them the names of 3 of your closest contacts. I'm not talking about that kind of nonsense. Sorry. It's more about making connections and either investing in and being invested in by your existing network, deepening it, or expanding on it because you want to know more of similarly oriented, like-minded, like-value people. Okay? And this particular boost, now, if you're someone who helps people make those kinds of connections or experience a deepening of existing circles or networks, pay close attention. This isn't very far away. And if you have something on the 8th, it's worth paying attention to. Okay? All right. It's one of the best, so I'm just going to say this. It's one of the best days to gather people. Okay? And I'm just going to use the term I've heard a lot, soul squad. Put your heads together. Alrighty? Alrighty. August the 10th. This is going to be a gorgeous day. Everyone's genius is going to be firing, on all cylinders this day. Now, if you haven't got the kind of relationship with self that allows you to see this, and I'm going to say this really directly, we aren't taught to see our own genius, and when we are, it is either seen through ego, and that's not what I'm talking about, or it sees our genius as a single one-dimensional or two-dimensional thing. Genius, and I've been witnessing this for years working with people with mapping. Genius is an amalgam that come under the heading of genius, which could imply it's a singular thing. It's not. It is many things working synergy together. This is also a really, really good day to see more of your genius as it does what it does. Sometimes it can be a little forests and trees, and you might need a little support seeing. So if you're someone who helps people see their genius at work and what makes it up, this could be a really good day to be working with people. Alrighty? Like, wow. Next slide, please. August the 12th. Now, I'm just going to check to make sure I have, I do have the right slide. I'm working with my notes, and I just wanted to make sure I got this right. So, August the 12th. First time in a decade this has happened. First time in a decade. Because it has Venus and Jupiter working together. Yamana, yamana, yamana. All right? Love and expansion. Love and the expansion energy of curiosity, fascination, and following that which calls us. Okay? What I want to say about this one is it asks us and will bring to us a truly reciprocal focus on connections and relationships. Okay? So remember we talked earlier about networks, and I said it isn't going into a big room with a bunch of strangers and giving them access to 3 of your closest connections without any concern for whether or not these people are, you get my meaning, right? This is about really being deeply in tune with what makes real connection occur, relationship that's about like values, principles, orientation, etc., so that reciprocity is present naturally, authentically. And that's what this is. It's kind of a big deal. All right? Our emotional sensitivity will be heightened across the board, something that might be very uncomfortable for some people who don't have a kind of native sensitivity, or it's just been subdued because it's been too difficult to be with. So on a therapeutic level, this is a really, really good day to help clients or patients have breakthroughs, to see what interferes with reciprocity, connection. But if you are like me, we deal with sensitivity on the regular, doesn't mean it isn't hard for us. Know that it aims to help us be able to focus on these kinds of connections and relationships. It's a really good day to have yourself a taste test or a webinar or a, you know what I mean, okay? Now remember, the day before, Mercury went out of retrograde, but will still be in the shadow. So there could still be some rumbles. Keep that in mind, but otherwise. Alrighty, next slide, please. August 25th. Very similar energy. Big, big, big advantageous conversation starter and relationship deepener or conversation deepener kind of day, particularly around values and sacred plus actionable ambition. Okay? Like, holy crap. This is another really good day for a taste test, a webinar, a presentation. Okay? Particularly if, as a matter of course, in the taste test, webinar, presentation, you facilitate conversation amongst those who join you. So it isn't just you talking. Okay? So it's more a facilitative, community building kind of experience. And you may find that if that's your purposeful wheelhouse, people may need preparation for this, because August and September are going to have some more of this, and some support from someone whose purposeful work is that could be a 2 thumbs up. So help people know you're out there and consider the possibility that you may need one of them. Okay? All right, next slide, please. Look at this. Imagination, a sense of the possible, boosted. And in the middle of everything we've been living through together, especially these last 6 months, we could all use some of this. All right? I would put whatever you need to in your calendar, whether it is a calendar on one of these or a paper calendar or both, and maybe in more than one place. Talking to myself here. Reminders about this, especially as you approach it. I'm going to be leaning into this day like you would not believe. All right? There may be some insights, some messages, some eureka moments that come because the lift out of heaviness could be really substantive and might be responsive to what's in front of you, in front of us, that makes it more clear about how you're now called to be with it or respond to it in your work and your business. Okay. Let your heart and its wise discerning spontaneity. And I underscore the word discerning. So it's not just leap in, it is how do I leap in from wisdom so that you can let your heart lead the way, not impulse, but true spontaneity that is wise and discerning. Okay. The reason I say that is because a lot of us have felt disconnected from sense of possible for a while now. Some of us much more than others. And a taste of this could have us just gallop off and be taken away, run off with. That's why let your heart, your wise discerning spontaneity, not your impulsiveness, not your finally we have a break, lead the way. Okay. Leadership. Remember, big fat call to leadership here. Okay. Next slide, please. Neutral days. Now, the first, which is tomorrow, we have two impulses, two that happen same day. Remember we talked about the 8 and it has an asterisk and said there's two, but they're not same category. Okay, this one's same category. And then the 9th. Next slide, please. So here we go with the first. The first one is, it will be so easy to be in assumptive confusion and upset. Okay? Because we're reading between the lines and inserting without realizing, okay? We rely on assumptions a lot of the time, and this is not a day to do that. This is a day to help ourselves see where we have been in assumptions so that we can lift it out. That's why this is a neutral day. It might not be comfortable, but it could be exceedingly useful. And then the second one is a mixed and muddled message kind of day. So nuance, complexity practice. Oh, so if assumption's alive and it's kind of 1 or 2 dimensional, this asks us to go, so what about this message? Either one I'm attempting to deliver or one I'm receiving, I'm either giving from singular or 2-dimensionality, and I need to go deeper into the nuance and speak to the complexity without speaking complexly, or the message I'm receiving, maybe I'm receiving it through assumption and I'm inadvertently squeezing the nuance out of it. Yeah? Okay. Next slide, please. August the 9th. It will be so wildly easy to go overboard into people pleasing, into overcommitting, into over, okay? And into burnout or aggressive extremes. All right? It doesn't sound like fun, right? But it's an exceptional day to practice self-possession. So before we, and trust me, I understand this. There are places where I just kind of unconsciously and reflexively volunteer myself. It's one example. And I have it in my calendar to take that into consideration from about midnight, the 8th through till about the 10th. I'm going to put a sticky note saying, don't volunteer on my screen so I can practice witnessing where that reflex goes into action and breathe and stop. Okay? A stellar self-possession practice day. Okay? If you're someone who helps clients with these kinds of things, whether the 9th or the 1st, keep these in mind because it could be really useful. Someone could have a revelatory breakthrough that changes the trajectory of their life, kind of thing. Okay? Which is why I broke them out into neutral, because they might not feel fun, but they are extraordinarily opportune nonetheless, if we know how to lean in and work with them. Next slide, please. Hotspots. So here's the asterisk on the 8th. So we had one earlier in opportune days. We also have one in a hotspot. This happens the same time. Then the 24th and 27th. Next slide, please. August the 8th. Okay. Vision roadblock confusion or outright horn locking with another person who's like, that vision is wrong. No, you're confused. Okay. Because it just pause, breathe, recalibrate. And by recalibration, I also mean, you know what I mean. August 24th. It's a control power struggles kind of day. There will be nitpicking, criticizing, flaw finding. Okay. Okay. Just sorry. And regulation, recalibrate, regulate. Okay. Really, really, it could be a very tricky day. I would stay off the interwebs. This is not a good day to do a taste test. It's not a good day to do, it's just not. Alrighty. And then the 27th, horn locking trust issues kind of a day. It's not the same, but a similar flavor because the places where we have trust owies active. And our tendency will be to go, argue, fight, rather than look at where the trust issue comes from. The trust issue will become agitated and likely have us passive aggressively or assertively attack. Alrighty, again, good day not to be on the interwebs, good day not to do taste test webinars, presentations, those kinds of things. If you cannot, if you have something planned and locked in, because that usually doesn't apply to folks in the Northern Hemisphere because that week of August, many people are away on vacation. And there doesn't tend to be that kind of activity, but if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, that doesn't apply to you in the same way. So please take stock, take care. If you can move it, because you've got almost a month to reschedule. And if you can't, I really want to recommend you do whatever you can to practice self-possession and holding space that helps people regulate with you. Be a co-regulator. It's could be strenuous this day, but if you know that you've been long-standing practice with this, go for it. Okay? Just take extra care. Get lots of sleep. Next slide, please. Favoured Fields. This is my favorite slide, this image. Oh my God. Next slide, please. They're not as many for this month, but they're worth paying close attention to. You might want to take a screenshot of this, print it, and put it up where you can keep your eye on it. I want to underscore a couple. Laughter, comedy. I'm really not kidding. If you want the others to go well for you, that will help, especially on days where there's lots of tension, or you're triggered, or you're just agitated. This will go a long way to help. Alrighty? Okay. And then number 13, and all that involves. All right? All right. Next slide, please. The next live, we double check the date on this, for September is on Thursday, August the 28th at our usual time of 1 p.m. Eastern. You might want to put that into your calendar now. It is the last Thursday of next month. Okay. Okay. Next slide, please. If you have any questions or shares, I would love to hear them. If you happen to be listening or watching this after the fact, be sure to come on over to the Facebook group, okay? Which of August's influences are calling you? Now, I want to remind current members that the next live with Lisa, which is a communal gathering for members of the current. Our next gathering is on the 8th of August, and it's going to be a doozy because we're going to dive into something there was just no way to talk about here. It's so multi-layered, multi-nuanced, deep, and it involves some teaching. So please, 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 please make sure you put August the 8th at 1 o'clock Eastern in your calendar, current members. And if you're not a member, now would be an exceptional time to join us, because what we're going to be covering and going into in detail, again, there's just no way I could cover it here. We just covered the basics for the month, and we're right at the top of the hour. This is going to devote probably half an hour to 40 minutes to cover something that's going to be affecting us and has extraordinary opportunity into it, but understanding how to lean into it and what to look for, et cetera, is more complex than we could cover here. And it will have effect on September, October, and November as well. So please consider putting yourself in the current, okay? The link is right there. Erica, could you pop it in the chat too, so people could just click if they want to? We'll make sure it's in the guide that we publish, replay guide. Do consider it, okay? There's some stuff on the move that's just way too deep. Like what I talked about at the beginning. The reason the slides are more simple is because there's just too much. But in the current, plus we got something extra starting next week that I think many of you are gonna want to know about. I'll be telling you more about that next week. Okay? Okay. Okay. So anybody got any questions or shares based on what we've covered here today? So I'm just going to go into the chat quick, see if there's anything there. Not so much for you, Pam. If you're still here.
Oh, yeah.
What did that mean?
So sorry. That was hi everyone. That was a comment around you said some of the retrograde has been wicked for some and not so much for others, and mine was not so much.
Oh, okay. Okay, got it now. Thank you. Yeah, this Mercury retrograde has been really tough for some people, like horror story kind of stuff. And oh, my heart goes out to you. I'm not surprised that you're already feeling that, Pam, doing the declutter and the distraction clutter. Why does that not surprise me? Patrice asked, hire a marketing guru too. Provided that marketing guru is not going to give you a framework and require you adopt it at exactly as prescribed. So let me just say that. So if your marketing quote unquote guru is clear that they're also there, they've got some chops, it's part of their, purposeful work and business, but they're also attempting to elicit for you, from you, what your marketing path is, okay? If that's the case, go for it. The other thing I would say is, if the teachings of a particular quote unquote marketing guru, and I don't like that term reference to an individual outside of a spiritual tradition or practice, if there's something about what they're doing that really, really speaks to you and could be representative of a piece of your marketing path, and you need to go learn it so that you can then practice it, yes. But be aware that you are then, it took me a long time to get this. I'm going to learn these couple of pieces because my heart tells me that those are for me. I might modify them specific to my temperament, my cadence, my rhythm, my principles, but I need to know those pieces. So keep that in mind if you do hire someone. But yes, they could be very helpful. Very, very helpful. Anybody else got a question or a share?
Alex has got her hand up.
Hi, Alex.
Hi.
Hi.
Well, I guess basically it's just to share that well, since my rising sign is Leo, I always feel like a burst of energy in Leo season,
Mm-hmm.
and I had that and enjoyed it for a bit until recently what just happened on Monday, it kind of brought it to a halt, but that ties in with what you were saying about the 10th and the 12th.
Yep.
My mom passed away on Monday,
Oh, my friend, I'm so sorry.
and on the 10th, I'm going to be flying home that day for the funeral, and she's going to be buried on the 12th, and that also happens to be the anniversary of the day my father passed. So, kind of struck me that you mentioned both of those dates.
Yeah.
The kind of energy that's going to be swirling around those days. So,
And you're no stranger to grief, my friend. So, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything that we can offer and support as you walk through these next few weeks and the tenderheartedness that follows?
Well, it's really helping to be here and to listen to you, and just because I've been spending the past few days making arrangements, and
Yeah.
I decided I'm going to be here, even, I'm going to, like, this is like taking a break from that and being in a space that's something not about that.
Yep. Understand.
And, listening to something that is uplifting to me. So I guess, just doing what you do is really helpful to me, and knowing that there's communities, because, just feeling a place to, like, communities of like-minded people where I kind of have a sense of being a part of something.
Well, I'm really glad that this offers you that. And please know I'll be walking with you in my heart.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. I know a little bit about what you're living through. So,
I know.
okay, you.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing. Thanks for being here. Thanks
Thank
for
you for everything you do for
Mm.
us.
You're welcome. My pleasure. Anybody else have anything they want to share or ask? Or are we complete for today? It looks like we're complete for today. Did I miss anything in the chat, Erica? I don't think I did, but
I don't think so.
okay, cool. All right, friends. So we'll have the replay out tomorrow, the replay email. And keep your eye out for the guide that goes with it. It should be helpful. And I'm just going to say this again. If you've considered the current, and we're kind of, now really is the time. Okay, my friends, between what is the big stuff that's going on in the background, there's just no way for me to encapsulate here. And just the deeper sense of community and our gatherings once a month and the podcast that goes out and what's going on in the world and why the current exists in response to that. Now just might be the time. Okay, take a good look, consider joining us. I look forward to seeing you there if you do on the 8th and beyond. And in the meantime, if you're watching this after the fact, please, please, please do come on over to our private Facebook group, Soul Map Live with me, and let us know how August's live landed with you, if anything particular is speaking to you, if you have any questions, and let's walk through the months together. Okay? All right. Thank you, Erica. Thank you all. Take good care.
Thanks, Erica. Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you,
you.
Erica.
Bye, everybody.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.